name is Jack, and this is the first build for the 3.27 Path of Exile 1 League Keepers of the Flame. If you haven't seen it, there is a huge buff for minions. Removed all sorts of minion accuracy from the game, although existing items with minion accuracy modifiers are unchanged, and these modifiers will now do nothing. GG also has been going into the patch notes and has been updating them, specifically removing minion accuracy and replacing it with new modifiers. Still, this is a huge buff for all minion builds. We no longer have to deal with minion accuracy, and this specifically is a Carrion, Golemancer, Necromancer. So we will be scaling with Carrion Golems. We'll also be using zombies and Wraith Spectres for defensive and utility purposes to buff or damage even further. This is a physical Carrion Golemancer. We will not be using the Unholy Might node. The reason why we use Wraith Zombies is because Golems do 5% more damage per non-Golem minion near them, up to 50%. So perfect for Wraith Zombies, because Wraith Zombies can hit like 11, 12, right? And specifically, they're very tanky, so they won't die as often. Don't have to deal with resummoning them all the time. Further than that, we will be going for critical damage. If you've seen it rare, that's because we are using Martar's Teaching. Minion's base attack critical strike is equal to the critical section of your main hand weapon, and then we're using a Harvest enchantment to remove the quality to physical damage and replace it with increased critical strike chance. This way, you can get up to like 9.45% base critical strike chance on Martar's Teaching, which then will go over to your minions. We're Golemancer, so we're using Primordial Might and Primordial Eminence together with Animal Stone to get extra maximum minion. Let's go over the minion tree first. Almost all minion trees are always the same. We'll be going light, so we won't be dealing with Energy Shield, as we don't have the skill points to go for Energy Shield and minions at the same time. It's kind of wonky, sadly. Lord of the Dead, we need this for the Wraith Zombie and the damage. Then we'll be going over here. We get as many jewel sockets as possible, since we have all of the golden jewels we need to put in. These two minion trees are very nice. Sacrifice and Spiritual Command. Good amount of HP and damage buff. We'll be going over here, taking this block tree, and we'll be getting the block mastery, which gives us 1% chance to block spell bench, 5% chance to block attack damage. This is especially good early on, when you will be using a different shield, which has more block modifiers and less minion modifiers. Taking this tree, which gives maximum life and the maximum life mastery. Of course, the sovereignty together with the mana reservation wheel, very important that you get the lower route here. Go down here, take this side, Redemption. You can take Writer's Army, but honestly, it's more like life than damage. It only gives you 20% more minion damage, and as you can see, your minions are already way tanky enough, so we don't really need that. Increased effects of Offering for the Mastery here. Go up here, we are crit build, so we're going to take the minion crit wheel here and have minions hit have 50% chance to ignore enemy physical damage reduction, which is very nice. We'll also be using cluster jewels, and the reason for that is there's not enough minion wheels on this tree to be really that nice. Specifically, we'll be using a large mini cluster jewel with 8 passive slots, which will have Rotten Claws, which will give us Impale on hit with attacks. Believe it or not, Impale actually scales really nicely, even though we can't even hit 100%. We'll be hitting like 40-50% on the minions. Scaling Impale is basically non-existent on minions. The chance to have that should be in the passive skill tree, just not there. And we don't have enough skill points to act, enough cluster nodes that we can get this over and over. Other than that, the most important thing on this cluster is that you get the chaos resistance and the increased attack and cast speed. The added small passive will have increased effect, it's just bonus. We mainly do this for the slots, which we put in Ghastly Eyes, which give base minion physical damage. The chance to avoid being stunned is also really nice, which you can put together with a node. All the way down here, there's the Shield Mastery node has a different node which says 30% chance of being avoided while holding a shield, together with those 2 jewels, and you having any amount of energy shield, which we have a good amount of, will put us above 100% chance to avoid being stunned. So that makes us basically stun immune as long as we have energy shield. If you don't need the energy shield because you have those 2 jewels, 50% from energy shield, 50% from those 2 jewels, 100% to stun immune. And instead we'll be taking this mastery, which gives us additional block chance down here. Then down here, the jewel socket, this life wheel. We travel down here, take this life wheel for this great pack. This is very good. The reason why this is good is not the accuracy, it's for the minions have 6% chance to deal double damage. That is really, really good. And all of these nodes in this wheel give minion damage as well. Another jewel socket, go down here, take this life wheel, and then the shield mastery, which gives us elemental resist and block attack damage. And it also gives +1 to all maximum resistances, which is really nice. We travel all the way over here, get Death Attunement for the extra Spectre and the extra Zombie. The Spectre especially is very important. Get this Life Mastery with the Mana Reservation Efficiency, another Jewel Socket. Go down here, Golem Commander is very important for the maximum number of summoned Golem. And then this 4-wheel, which gives attack speed and also gives permanent onslaught to your minions on kill. So long as your minions are killing, they have onslaught pretty much. That is pretty straightforward. The skill tree, then we have the Ascendancy, as I said, mindless aggression, right? 10% more damage, 30% more maximum life, bone barrier. This node used to be way better. It got nerfed heavily, but it's honestly the best we got. And it gives still a good amount of survivability for you and your minions. It also gives 1% of damage dealt by your minions is leached to you as life. So this is how we regenerate our life. As long as our minions are doing damage, we will not die pretty much, unless we get one shot. Plaguebringer, Carrion Golems consume corpses. Still, we can just continue summoning corpses, and while there's at least one corpse nearby, we do 10% more damage and take 10% reduced damage. And then minions also get 30% increased area of effect, which is really nice as well. Commander of Darkness gives 30% to all elemental resist to nearby allies, 30% increased damage, and Auras get 30% increased attack and cast speed to union allies. So those are the ones we'll be getting. Do not take Unholy Natural Strength. This literally kills the build. It will make you do 0 damage. Why? Because we're using Brutality. And Brutality has deal no chaos damage, deal no elemental damage, and then more physical damage. And that's why that is like that. Let's go over the skill tree, shovel a little bit, Awakened minion damage, Awakened Brutality, Awakened Multi-Strike. Of course, Awakened Multi-Strike is really expensive. Early on, you will probably just using like normal Multi-Strike, normal Brutality, normal minion damage, and increased critical damage and raise zombie. But then they always will be using Pride. Pride together with the gem quality is pretty much the entire screen. We go over here, I can show it to you. Radius, look, that pretty much touches the top and the bottom of your screen. Almost any monster that you're going to be fighting will be inside this radius. Then Flesh and Stone for the same pretty much, which will give us enemies in the aura do 20% more physical damage from hits. Beauty of Elements, really nice. We'll be fixing a lot of elemental resistances with it, additionally to making us immune to all elemental ailments. So we only have to deal with poison and bleed, which we can fix with flasks. The rest is all immune, including Scorch, Brittle, and the last one, which I forgot. Summon Skitterbot for chill and shock effect. Then we have buff specters. There's a bunch of specters in here which are really nice. Perfect Dancing Sword gives us Impale chance and Impale effect to nearby allies. Guardian Turtle is the most important one. This one gives determination and a huge defensive layer. Forest Warrior has Culling Strike and it gives onslaught to nearby enemies. And then Perfect Forest Tiger has nearby allies have 5% chance to gain Frenzy Charge on hit. And it also gives cast haste, right? So this way we have permanent Frenzy Charges, we have more Impale, we have Determination from the Turtle, we have Culling Strike, we have Onslaught, and Haste as well for our minions from these for Spectres. The reason this looks like this in the setup here is this is the only way you can set up multiple raid Spectres up to your Spectre limit. Basically, you can't put multiple Spectres in PoE in a singular gem. That's why this is displayed like this. Then we're using this crate. There's a crate with a Camus Band together with Spirit Offering. Spirit Offering specifically, since this gives minions critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier. As I said, we're using Mata's Teaching, so we're using Spirit Offering as this gives us the biggest damage increase. And our minions already have like a huge attack rate. If you look here, we're like 12.23. that's already ridiculous. We don't need Flash Offering, to be honest with you. Together with Life Tab, shouldn't be too much of a life cost, honestly, since we continuously leech life from the minions, right? Then Vulnerability would be self-casting. Also Enduring Cry, use this as pretty much on cooldown to grant yourself additional Phys layer for physical max hit and some elemental max hit as well. It actually adds a good amount. And Convocation to call the minions back, of course. And last one, Frostblink with Wintry Blast with faster casting Life Tab for the movement speed. And then just when you get to the location where you want to go, you just use Convocation. And that should pretty much be it. Those are the skill gems. Let's look over the items. Matar's Teaching is pretty much the item we're building around. It has a Harvest Infusion, which replaces the quality with increased critical strike chance by 4% quality. And then we try to get the increased critical strike chance roll as high as possible for over 9% base critical strike chance for the minions. Then this Fossilized Shield together with the Replica Fan is probably the most expensive here. You try to get what the most important things on this item is: the level of all minion skill gems, and then the increased chance to block, and the minions have increased critical strike chance. Those are the 3 modifiers which you need to get 100%. The rest is just extra. And the recover 5% of life when you block comes from Shaper item. So we have like over 60% block chance, so that makes sense, right? So the rest of the modifiers, maximum res, minion steal, 90% increased damage, is pretty much just extra rolls. If you can get them, nice. If you don't, it's like not the end of the world, just extra HP and extra damage. Divine Crown with minions have 9% increased maximum life, maximum race of zombies. This modifier comes from a Veiled. It shouldn't be too hard to get. You basically just try to hit the minion of skill gems together with the Veil, and then maximum life, increased armor and shield, and the strength you can honestly just craft on. And the Sacred Chainmail, we'll be using pretty much only armor and energy shield items, since we need the armor for physical damage reduction. This one has increased effect of non-curse hours from your skills. Very important. This increases damage by a good amount, and then 12% of physical damage from hits taken as fire damage. It doesn't really matter which of the elements it is. We all have 78% elemental resistance for each one of them. This implicit specifically gives us more physical max hit, and that's why we're taking it. The armor as well. Most importantly, get maximum life and the armor rolls as high as possible, and then get the 8% additional physical damage reduction. And then if you have some space, Crampa Chaos roll in there. That is pretty much the item. It shouldn't be too expensive. Paladin Growth is literally just resistance and armor, and then we have minions deal increased damage. That is the Searing Exarch roll, and the Eat of Worlds is chance to spell damage. There's really nothing better on Eater of the Worlds on gloves. All of the rest of the things are just like useless for minion build. So that is actually the best thing you can get. I mean, it's not much. Like, it doesn't really matter. You could probably forego this roll if you like. It's not even that great. It's only 10%, right? You want to have at least like 80 for suppress spell damage to be great, but it's better than nothing. If you want an Eater roll, that is pretty much the only thing that makes sense. Paladin Boots, again, just life, armor, and resistance rolls. Very important here, Spirit Offerings have increased effect. And again, the other roll, the Eater roll, is again completely useless. There's nothing useful there. The best you can do is chance to avoid poison or chance to avoid elemental ailments. I really wish there was something good in here, but this is nothing a minion build can use at all. So that is the best you got. Probably the most expensive item is Replica Dragonfin's Flight, which will have +3 to level all summon Carrion Golem gems. It's hard to say how expensive this will be, because Replica Dragonfang has a lot of variations, right? It has, if we look over here, these are all of the variations of Replica Dragonfang, but this item comes from Heist, and Heist has just been buffed, and a lot more people are going to be playing Heist now, which means this item will be more common. It was 10 chaos in trade, which doesn't say anything, because only certain skills, especially minion skills, are really expensive for this item. If I was to guess how expensive this item would be, I would say at least 1 divine, and maybe at maximum 5 divines. And then the charisma allocation has also, we'd be needing this for a mana reservation efficiency, opposition gold. So gold is already expensive, and then opalescent as well. So this is by far the most expensive item, but it's also the best one. It makes our life a lot easier by having the attribute requirement lower. It has increased reservation efficiency. It gives all res, and it gives the really amazing +3 to summon Carrion Golems. Early on, you'll be using like a different amulet probably that has +1 and then plus all skill and then +1 physical or something like that. Later on in the league, you'll get this. Bone rings for the minions have elemental resistances, right? And then maximum life resistance, and then minion damage and minion attack speed. That is pretty much all you need. Then we'll be using Darkness and Throne for the 2 Abyssal sockets, and Darkness and Throne will also have 80% increased effect of socket and Abyss jewels. And the reason for that is because we'll be using these Ghastly Eye jewels. Why? Minions deal 24 to 36 additional physical damage. This is the one roll that you need to get T1, and you need to get this roll as high as possible, right? This will be increased by Darkness and Throne to give our minions a huge base damage buff. And then you can also put some life and some chaos resistance on here, and an additional minion attack speed roll, if possible. Try to get this as close as possible to the way this is right here. Flasks. Instant flask, as always, we'll be using a basalt for the armor with an increased armor during effect. We'll be using a quad for the phasing, specifically with bleed immunity, quicksilver with poison immunity. So this way we are fast and we run through minions, we can get blocked. And since we have a shield, we'll be using Rumi's Concoction, which will be giving us a chance to block attack and spell damage during effect, which we have permanent on. It's a granite flask, so we'll be getting extra 1,500 armor from this as well for some more physical max hit. Then I've shown the cluster jewels already, the Ghastly Eye jewels as well. Pretty much the same. It says they have a chance to avoid being stunned for the 50% plus the energy shield 50% to gain stun immunity. Animal Stone, every Golem build has this item. Shouldn't be too expensive. It has +1 maximum number of golems. We have 3 primordial items, which are these down here. So primordial eminence, and primordial might, which gives us attack speed, increased effect of a buff from our golems, and golems gain more armor. And then might, 20% increased maximum life for the golems, and the golems are aggressive, so that way the golems attack. That is the mid-game setup pretty much. It won't change too much if you go for the end game. There's not much you can increase here. This is the end game setup. Item-wise, really nothing has changed at all, except we have a new large cluster jewel. If we go down here, we took these 2 points, traveled over here for this large cluster jewel, which has 50% increased attack speed and cast speed for minions, 35% increased effect. And then we have these 2, Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame. It fits perfectly. I looked at all the other available jewel sockets. They are all too far away and would take too many passive skill points. This is the best we got, and also these strength nodes are actually kind of nice to fix some strength problems. So Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame, the one we're allocating on the wish side is League of the Primordial. What this gives us is summon golems are immune to elemental damage, which is insane. Extremely tankable minions, golems specifically now. Then 50% increase of buffs granted by golems. This has been nerfed to 50% this patch. Summon golems are resummoned 4 seconds after being killed. Normally golems never die, except you're doing like uber bosses and they're standing in like Shaper Slam, or in the series like big orbs, they're standing in searing exarch stuff, stuff like that. After 4 seconds, they resummon by themselves. You don't even have to think about it. And then most importantly, +2 to maximum number of summoned golems. This puts us at 6 Carrion golems, actual huge damage increase. Items stayed the same, and the only change we have over here is Val Haste, which you could have, right? And this puts us at 38 million DPS. It could make a chance of taking one of the bloodline nodes, especially not using Plaguebringer and then using one of the bloodline nodes. But you have to really think about it. You can't use the Delirium one, which gives you 40% less damage taken from hits because it disables all jewels. This includes your primordial jewels and stuff like that, so we can use that. There is really nothing much you can take. You could take the Katarina one that gives you increased global defenses per specter and attack damage per zombie. That one's actually pretty good, but it doesn't include golems really, which is the problem. There's one more bloodline, and there's also the Farul one, which is not good because it limits the specter to one specter, and we can't just do that. That's horrible, right? So that's the endgame setup. Let's look at the early maps section. Believe it or not, this build actually looks pretty decent for early maps. So this is like based on white maps. All of the items will be pretty standard. You can gain a vendor recipe to gain a +1 minion level of all minion skill gems, one. And then you can just craft on minion damage. Early on, you'll be using an Archon Kite Shield instead and just get as much block on it as possible. Nothing but block and life, and the rest is just life and resistances. The helmet has +1 to level of all minion skill gems. We'll be using bone rings. Try to get these damage rolls. Don't really need resistances here. Leather belt, blast modifiers are really good here. Here, fixed bleeding, poison, freeze, and ignite are the most dangerous ones. Shock you can mostly ignore. All of the skill gems here are level 16. You can farm, summon Carrion Golem pretty much easily. You can just redo Merklab over and over and over again until you get it. Until then, you'll be using the normal summon Carrion Golem, which is still fine. Like, right, together with the zombies and the Carrion Golems, we'll be using like 400k DPS, which is pretty good. 9,000 physical max hit, and the elemental max hit and chaos max hit should be fine for white maps. Leveling. I'm really not that good at leveling, but I have something linked here in the build. This is the one thing you should go to for leveling a witch. Maxwell has this really amazing leveling guide. It has everything you need. If you want to level this build and swap to it later when you hit Act 10, follow the Maxwell guide. Should be fine. Maxwell should guide you through leveling really, really easily. This build looks pretty good. I'm uncertain if I would league start this. It seems good, like it seems fine to league start, but I'd say if you've never played minions before, I wouldn't league start this. If you love minions, you played minions before, you know how minions work, you know how they feel like, I totally would league start this. I think minions have looked pretty good this league. You'll get there. There's gonna be more minion players this league because of the change, but the items shouldn't be that expensive, as most people tend to avoid minions, as everybody this league is gonna play either slams or wonders. Those are the two things which are gonna be really expensive this league. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. If you like, leave a like, leave a subscribe. See you around.